Hello everybody and welcome back to VuDivulged. I'm Anthony Polkowski, the General Manager, and in today's Distinguished Speaker Series, we have Josh Pirtle. He is currently a member of the FBI and is a member of the North Virginia Safe Streets Gang Task Force. During his presentation, he talks about his steps in becoming an FBI agent and as well as some of the cases he personally was involved in. I must warn you that viewer discretion is advised because at one point during his lecture, he does talk about crimes against children. Please enjoy his presentation.
We have a distinguished speaker today. His name is Josh Pirtle. He was at the Sullivan event, who attended the Sullivan event last year. Okay, he was there. If you recognize him, that's probably where you recognize him from. He is an FBI supervisory special agent, and he's going to be talking to you a bit today about his job and what he does. Let's give him a round of applause and let's get started.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So my dad's in the back. I'm sure he'd tell you guys I'm not a distinguished speaker, but so he's probably going to hear some things that he hasn't heard. So it's going to be interesting to see what he thinks of some of the things I've done in my career too. I'm going to be really raw with you guys today. I don't speak very polished. I walk around, I pace, but it's going to be conversational. I'm going to just tell you my career path, some of the challenges I've faced, some of the opportunities I've had, and how I've got to where I am today. And then I'm also going to talk to you if I get time, because this presentation is usually about an hour and 15. So we're going to be struggling for time a little bit because I tend to talk a lot. But with that said, I am the Washington Field Office's Supervisory Special Agent over the Northern Virginia Gang Task Force. So it's a HIDTA and a gang task force. It's a dual mission task force. So I'm responsible for high intensity drugs and transnational gangs. Our bread and butter on my squad is MS-13. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that. If you guys have any questions about it, let me know. Any questions where I came from, just anything. Just raise your hand, throw something at me. If I trip and fall, just don't make fun of me. All right. I'm going to start with this. I'm a quote guy. I like motivational quotes. I like motivational things. I read a lot. With my current commute, which is an hour to work and an hour 15 home because it's Washington, D.C., I have about 2 hours and 15 minutes in a car minimum every day, so I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I like to call myself a closet nerd. With that being said, this is something that's meant something to me. I just kind of wanted to share it with you guys. So wherever you're at, whatever stage in life you're in, make sure you're not just checking boxes. Make sure you're not just like trying to get to that next point. Challenge yourselves. Do things that mean something to you. And this has always kind of been important to me. Surround yourself with people that cheer on your success. Because I can tell you right now, being from this area, a lot of people don't understand why you want to be in law enforcement, or why would you want to do that? Or I had a lot of people didn't believe I'd be able to be an FBI agent. I wanted to be an FBI agent when I was in high school. It was something I kind of kept to myself. I shared it with a few people. My dad knew, and a few other people knew. But with that, it wasn't something that a lot of people understood. So for me, surrounding myself with people that cheered on my success was important. And I want to share that with you guys. Okay? Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about why I got in law enforcement, where I'm from. We're going to talk about my career path and how I got to where I am today. I'm going to do some case studies. Once we get in here, I'm going to be struggling for time a little bit. I kind of know how long this presentation is, but I want to talk about some challenges that I've seen in law enforcement and some things that I want to share with you guys just for your awareness. All right, so why law enforcement? So this is one of the stories. I don't know if my dad knows this story, to be honest with you. And it's funny him sitting in the back. I don't want to call him out, but I don't know if I've ever shared this with him. Maybe I have. So my parents were divorced at a very young age. I was one and a half, something like that. Early on, my dad was in construction. He was a truck driver. My mom was a blue-collar worker. We didn't come from a lot of money. I lived with my grandparents for a while. When I was 5 years old, I moved to Chicago with my mom. My mom was originally from Chicago. She worked a couple jobs trying to keep, make ends meet. And one day I was in kindergarten. My older sister, she was in first grade. She and I were at a babysitter's house. And my mom was at work. And we were only supposed to be there for a couple hours. And she took us to another house. And I didn't know it at the time what it was, but I know now that it was a crack house. My sister remembers it better than I do. I kind of remember it in like pictures in my mind. I remember being at this house. remember people being around. And our babysitter, I think, passed out or something. My mom obviously was worried about us. She called the cops. And they found us at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why do I share this story with you? I have no idea why I was interested in law enforcement. But my first recollection of law enforcement officer was that. And the police officer in Chicago, Illinois, let me sit in the front seat of his car and mess with the lights, play with the sirens, and he treated me like a kid. And he treated me like just a regular kid. And I share that with you because you have no idea the impact that you're going to have on people. So be a decent human being. Treat people the right way. And you have impact on people all around you. I guarantee you guys, there's kids out there that look up to you now. And if you can be impactful in their life to help them get to this point, it's going to mean something to them. I'm an FBI supervisory special agent, and at one interaction with a Chicago police officer in the 1980s, that's how old I am, so don't make fun of me, guys, had that impact on me. All right, where am I from? You guys already know the answer to that. I am from Sullivan, Indiana. Who's from this area? Who's from Vincent, Sullivan, just this area, right? Let's be honest, there's not a lot of people from this area that think kind of the bigger picture, like you can make it to the FBI or whatever it is your goals are. But I share this with you it's not a bragging thing, just to show you that you can do anything that I've done. I'm not special, not smarter than any one of you. I came from a similar background. You know, my family's construction workers and farmers and blue collar workers. That's what I come from. Let's see, growing up I wrestled. I was in football, baseball. I ran cross country. I hated every step that I ran because I did it to stay in shape for wrestling. My dad I'm calling my dad out a lot. He used to make me bale hay for free. I didn't even get paid for it. He would loan me out to farmers to stay in shape for wrestling. So wrestling was important to me. It taught me a lot about overcoming adversity and things like that. I'm just sharing this stuff with you guys to show just a normal background. I'm a normal guy. I was a normal kid. What happened after high school? Well, any questions about where I'm from? Any of that? So I was supposed to wrestle after high school and college, but the truth is I was burned out. Wrestling's a hard sport. I don't know if any of you guys, every sport's hard, and it takes a lot of who you are, right? And I knew I was kind of ready to move on to something else. I also knew I was interested in law enforcement. So I joined the Indiana Air National Guard. In 2001, so I set out a year, and I didn't go to college, and I went to training for the Air Force. In 2001, I was sitting in criminology classes at Indiana State University, and 9/11 happened. On October 15th, I was sitting in a class, and I got a call that said, hey, you need to come out to the base. October 18th, I was on a plane, so I had to drop out of school. I had to sit out the next 2 years or 2.5 years or so. But this was important for my growth. This is me with a group of my friends when Iraqi freedom started. This is me in Bosnia in 2002. I had a conversation with a mentor during this period of my life. And I shared with him some of my goals about who I wanted to be. And I remember sharing with him, like, I'd love to be an FBI agent one day. And I said to him, I'm not sure I'm good enough, though. I'm not sure that I have what it takes. I don't come from a lot. I don't come from a big city. I don't know what they're wanting. And he looked at me. He goes, what do you mean you don't know if you're good enough? And he looked at me with a confusion, like, why would I feel that way about myself? And I try to share that with you guys now. I mean, you can see the kind of the tone of my presentation is to share with you guys. You can do whatever you want. Maybe your goal is not to be an FBI agent. Maybe it's to be a paramedic or a sheriff's deputy or a state trooper or local PD. Whatever your goal is, own it. And I promise you're good enough to get there. So that had an impact on my career. After I got back, I joined the Sullivan, Indiana Police Department. I did that for about a year. I did patrol work down there, or up there. And then I joined the Terre Haute Police Department. On Terre Haute, I became a SWAT operator. I was on honor guard, and I eventually became a violent crime detective. And I worked homicides, rapes, robberies, things of that nature. At this point in my career, I was still in the Indiana Air National Guard, and I applied for the FBI. So while I was doing this and while I was doing that, I got back to Indiana State University, and I went and got a criminology degree, and I went and got a business management degree. And it was a grind. It was a grind, but looking back now, it was worth it. And I share that with you, not to say, that's what your path should be, but if you are focused on your goals and who you want to be, you're going to have setbacks. I can promise you that. I didn't get selected as a detective the first time I put in. I blew my knee out in the academy at that setback. So you're going to have setbacks in your career, but if you just stay focused and you're relentless on who you want to be, you'll get there. And I knew who I wanted to be. So I was going to school during the day, and I was working in the evenings. So I applied for the FBI in 2008 originally. And then in 2010 they hired me. It took about 2 years. The FBI is notorious for like a year and a half, 2 year processes. So here's some of the units I've been in with the FBI. Whoops, sorry about that. So this is where I'm at now. Northern Virginia Violent Gang Task Force. Again, we work MS-13, 18th Street. We have some Bloods and Crips cases. Really, it's like transnational or macro level gangs. I have a sister squad that's out of the Washington, D.C. field office as well. So we're CR7, they're CR6. They work the local gangs, the street level crews. We also do HIDA, which is high intensity drug trafficking area. And so we work a lot of large level narcotics cases. Starting out in the FBI, I joined 2010, went to Quantico, and I was always told, you're never going to get to your field office that you want to go to. You're number one. So where do you think I wanted to go to? Anybody? Indianapolis, right? Indiana's home. And at the time, I was like, man, I want to go back home, but I'm not going to get there. So I put Chicago number one. Chicago's the 4th largest field office in the FBI. I was like, I can get Chicago. I had a friend that went in the FBI about 6 months before me, and he got Chicago. He's like, oh yeah, man, you'll get this. Everybody, like, there's all kinds of people that go to Chicago. So in the academy, you rank the field offices. There are 56 field offices, like I said. I got my 53rd choice. I went to El Paso, Texas. And at the time, when I got that, so you stand up in front of your class, there's a big map, you pull out the envelope, they select where you read where you're going, and you read where you wanted to go and where you're going. And it was almost like devastating that I was going to El Paso, Texas. I was married, my wife and I had to move across the country, so I had to tell her that. But I'll tell you, like if you walk into challenges and treat them like opportunities instead of feeling sorry for yourself, you're going to be better off in life. And that's what I did. I was like, all right, I'm all in. This is the choice I made. I'm all in. I'm going to do the very best that I can and be the very best agent that I can be instead of feeling sorry for myself. I ended up being in Midland, Texas. Who's seen Friday Night Lights, the movie? Man, I am getting old. All right. If I would have said that like 10 years ago, everybody would have raised their hand. So if you want to see Midland, Odessa, Texas area, watch the movie Friday Night Lights, or better off read the book. The book is better. But that's Midland, Odessa. They love their high school football, and that's where I was sent. I was there for over 10 years. So I worked a lot of violent crime cases, bank robberies. We were in an RA, resident agency, so we worked everything in that office. I was primarily assigned to the Safe Streets Gang Task Force. Worked a lot of Aryan Brotherhoods cases, Mexican Mafia cases, things like that. A lot of narcotics cases. Also did violent crime, like I said, bank robberies and other violent crime. But I got to help, being in the RA, I got to help on public corruption cases, terrorist financing cases. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I got the best experiences I ever could as an investigator there. In 2013, I had an AUSA come up to me. AUSA is the Assistant United States Attorney. He came up to me and he said, hey man, we worked a lot of good cases together. We've been working together for like 3 years. I'd like to work crimes against children. And crimes against children in law enforcement is one of those things that like people look at and I go, oh man, I don't know how you work that. I don't know how you do that work. because it's some of the toughest work that you can do, because you have to look at some of, oh, look at me, I'm messing things up here. There we go. You have to look at some of the worst videos and images you can imagine. Some people will think crimes against children is like 14-year-old girls on the beach taking their shirt off and taking pictures, and that's CSAM. CSAM is child sexual abuse material. It's not. The cases that you're working are prepubescent children that are 4, 5, 6, 7 years old or younger getting raped. That's what you're working. So that's what and then we wanted to work proactively and target guys that were trying to pick up kids that were under 13 or under. So he came to me and asked me to work crimes against children. That kind of became my niche for several years. I'll talk to you guys about that in a minute. I then went to the Child Exploitation Operational Unit. That's right here. They decided, I had a couple mentors that said, hey, you know, you've been in the FBI for like 11 years, man. You've done great work. And you get to a point where it's good to have mentors because they can kind of help guide you through your decision process. And they said, you know, I think you'd be good in this unit. So I put in, I got promoted. I took over the technical exploitation squad for the child exploitation unit up in the DC area, up in around Baltimore. And I worked on darknet cases and developing tools for investigators to use to target and identify subjects that were trying to prey on children. So I did that for a couple years. I can talk a lot about that if you want me to. Is some really good highlights in my career there that I really, really enjoyed. And then last year, the Northern Virginia Violent Gang Task Force Squad came open, and I put in for that, and I was lucky enough to be selected for the position that I'm in now. Any questions about career path, how I got there, things I did? I'm talking fast because I know we have a limited time, but I want you guys to be open to ask questions, and I'll share anything with you. Go ahead.
Do you have like females on your task force?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'll tell you what I do a lot. I do a lot. And I'm glad you asked that. I really am. I tend to take female agents with me when I do community outreach, especially in schools, because guys kind of tend to think like I can do that, but for whatever reason, girls kind of tend to wonder if they're good enough or if they can do it or whatever. And I don't know why. I'll be honest with you. I don't know why. They kind of tend to think remember that question I asked myself, like I don't know if I'm good enough, right? Some of the best agents on my squad are females. I have a new agent on my squad. She's been on my squad for a year. She got there at the end of October last year. She was a school teacher for 10 years. She's one of the most organized, transparent. She communicates better than anybody else. She treats people the right way. Like, she's one of the best agents I have on my squad. I have another agent that was on my squad. She just left. She went to a white-collar squad because she's getting ready to have her second kid, and she's done tremendous work on the gang squad, but it is a different pace. I probably have the busiest squad in the Washington field office. We're out a lot. We do a lot of surveillance. We do a lot of controlled buys of narcotics, meets with gang members, things like that. So it's not normal hours. So yes, I have a lot of, I have like 2 or 3 female task force officers as well. So, any other questions before we get on to case studies? Nobody? All right, let's talk about some case studies. So I'm assigned to Midland, Texas back in 2000. Go through the academy in 2010. They assigned me to Midland, Texas. This is me right here. My 4th day in the field office, the state police call my supervisor, and they say, hey, we just got a complaint that there's a local police officer in Andrews, Texas. You can look up where Andrews, Texas if you want. You can look up this case if you want. That a local police officer they think they're working with this crew, and they're distributing a lot of narcotics. So my supervisor comes to me, he goes, hey, you were a local police officer for like 7 years, right? I was like, yeah. Again, this is my 4th day in the field office. He's like, you want a new case? I was like, absolutely. He's like, it's yours. It's your baby. You run with it. Do whatever you can do with this. And as I look back right now, I remember my dad coming to see me, and I was working about 22-hour days. Remember that? And he was like, you don't even get to see me. I'm here to see you. I was working a lot. So the name of the game for the FBI is sources. Remember I said be a decent human being, treat people the right way? That doesn't just mean each other and your peers. That doesn't mean your supervisors. That doesn't mean within your agency. That means when you're talking to victims. That means when you're talking to subjects. That means when you're talking to potential sources. And everybody is a potential source. Everybody. Everybody's got information. So I was able to recruit 2 sources into this crew. So we started doing controlled narcotics buys. They were selling counterfeit pills, cocaine, hydroponic marijuana, and they were moving a lot of guns. So over the span of about 6 or 7 months, we did, I don't know, we were out every week doing controlled buys. We were doing surveillance. We're putting up cameras to watch places. And the longer we took, the information just got bigger and bigger. So I wrote a Title III affidavit. Who knows what a Title III is? Nobody? So it's a phone tap, right? We were able to listen to phone calls, able to see the text messages. And we stayed up on his phone for a couple months. Now, let me pause here for a minute. So you guys are in law enforcement classes, right? You guys talk about like documentation and writing, like report writing and stuff like that? Yeah? This is where you go, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. How many pages do you think my affidavit was for this Title III?
35.
It was 48 pages. So when you're in these classes and they're talking about the importance of articulating your thoughts and laying out probable cause, they mean it. Okay? You want me to stand still?
You're good.
I just realized he has a camera on me. Poor guy, I'm making him work for this. All right, I'm gonna try to stand right here. I'm not gonna succeed. I'm gonna try for about 5 seconds and I'm gonna keep walking because that's how I am. So it was 48 pages, guys. What did I do? There we go. So just be mindful of the lessons that you're learning from your professors. They're serious. They're real world. They know what they're talking about. And the lessons that you learn here are going to help you later. And then it's going to help you succeed more than other people. Because I was able to be successful in this case because I was able to put in the work that other people didn't know how to do, or they weren't willing to do the work because they didn't know how to write a Title III. But don't let that scare you. I didn't know how to write a Title III affidavit, but I was willing to take on that challenge. And from that challenge, I arrested 24 people federally, including the police officer, and we had an additional 21 charges locally. We seized 5 houses, 7 cars. Over $100,000 was hidden in his wall. We got that from the Title III by listening to his calls. Pounds and pounds of narcotics. And that was all just because I was willing to sit down and challenge myself and take on that challenge of writing that Title III. All right. For some reason, I had a knack for finding bad police officers. Jackie Thompson. Jackie Thompson was a former police officer, and he had ties to Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle. And for years, even before I got to Midland, people were like, "Oh, Jackie's dirty. Jackie's dirty." Nobody would get anything on him. Nobody would get anything on him. All right, what did I tell you guys the name of the game was for the FBI? Sources. That's right. I think because I'm from a town like Sullivan, and I came up the way I did, I'm able to talk to people when other people that went to some big college and came from a white-collar family. And I'm not talking bad about anybody from a white-collar family. I'm not talking bad about, some of these big colleges that some agents come from. But what I'll tell you is that I can talk to anybody where other people might be a little nervous. Because I can talk to the janitor the same way I would a CEO of a company. It doesn't matter to me. Just be a decent human being, and it's going to get you so much further. Because of that, I was able to recruit a couple sources in this guy's crew. And he was distributing methamphetamine, stolen property. So he had Aryan Brotherhood, Aryan Circle crews bringing him stolen property from burglaries they would commit. And then he's also distributing steroids, illegal steroids, and guns. One of the sources I recruited in this case was actually a police officer who was buying steroids illegally off him. Did I really care about the steroids? No, I didn't. But it was a means to an end to get to this guy. Right? And I knew this guy and his friend was using steroids that he was providing. So that was my end. We seized a couple houses, several pounds of methamphetamine. We initially arrested 6, and then we rolled up another superseding indictment after this, and we arrested 12, and it led to this guy. Kevin Rickman. Birdie, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. How long did it take you to catch them?
That's a good question. This case right here was 11 months. This case was, it was over a year. I don't remember how much it was. But our investigation, so that's a really good question. How long did it take me to catch these guys? FBI cases are not like, I'm going to go buy dope off of this one person, or I'm going to go get one bad act on this one person. We want to take down the entire network. The enterprise theory of investigation is what the FBI calls it. Like, we want to dismantle and disorganize as many people as we can so they can't continue this operation. Because if I wouldn't have investigated this guy the way I did and taken down the whole crew, one of his lieutenants would have stepped up to the plate and then taken over right where he was, right? By taking down these 6 plus the additional 12, they weren't able to continue their operations. Right? We call that dismantling the organization. All right, Kevin Rickman, is that good? Birdie, and I shared this with you because I thought this was a hilarious article headline. I told you I wasn't going to sit still. It says, bye-bye Birdie, FBI nails Aryan Circle bozo for moving meth and whacking federal witness. So this guy was a thorn in the side of all of the agencies out there in West Texas for years. He was a captain in the Aryan Circle. He moved meth with Jackie Thompson, who I just showed you, for a while, and then he stepped up his own game, and he became one of the. So in 2002, some of my predecessors in the El Paso division did a big Aryan Circle, Aryan Brotherhood takedown, and it was some of his mentors, if you will, within the Aryan Circle. And he steps up his plate after they get all arrested, and this is exactly why we want to dismantle the organization so that can't happen. Now, I will say, with larger level gangs like this, we're not going to take out the Aryan Circle completely. You can take out cliques and dismantle and disrupt what they're doing. And that's what I did with his crew. He was the main subject. There was other people involved with this investigation. He was the main subject, and I bring him up because this is the beauty of taking your time and doing an investigation. I talked about like pounds of meth on the other cases and all the money and all that stuff. Do you know how much money or how much dope I seized off of him? Nothing. Not a gram of meth. But I convicted him for distributing meth because I was able to put the pieces together, and I got every single report that he was ever involved in. We did a criminal conspiracy case and proved that he was the leader. All right, so any gram or ounce or any dope that touched his hands and he was responsible for leading, it was his responsibility. So throughout that investigation, I also proved that he was responsible for killing 2 people. He killed a federal witness. He was a DEA target, and the DEA had flipped a guy, and he was responsible for that death, and it was rumored for a long time. I proved that in an investigation, and I also proved that he killed a guy named Kevin Coker. Why is that important? Because Kevin was just another Aryan Circle shithead. Oh, sorry. Bad guy. Sorry. But Kevin Coker slept with Birdie's girlfriend. Birdie didn't like that, so I gave him a hot shot of meth, threw him on a railroad tracks, and let a train hit it. Anybody know what a kite is in prison? Anybody? No? A kite is a message from one inmate to another. It's usually handwritten. They'll pass it from one inmate to another to get messages, right? So we intercepted a kite. Now, how do you think we did that? How do you think we intercepted a kite?
Sources.
Through sources. That's right. All right? We had sources in place. And in that kite, or that message, if you will, Birdie said, well, I need to stop messing with this thing. Birdie said, if Agent Pirtle's not careful, he's going to end up on the tracks like Kevin Coker. So he was threatening to kill me. I'm going to check the time here because I know I'm talking a lot. All right. So I'm going to tell you guys a funny story. I told you that to tell you this. So remember I told you the AUSA wanted me and some others to work crimes against children? Remember that part of the story? So at the time when this guy was going to trial, I got the message that he was threatening me, and he was also threatening the AUSA, the prosecutor. So my wife calls me one night, and we're at the DPS in Texas, which is the state police, and we're set up an undercover operation for crimes against children, where we're posing as 12 and 13-year-olds for guys trying to target and prey on young girls. Right? That's what we were doing. My wife calls me, and I'm there, and I'm doing some undercover work, chatting. And she says, "Hey, there's somebody outside our house in an old truck, and I don't know who it is, and he didn't knock on the door or anything. He's like on the side of the house." So I'm on the phone, I'm on my cell phone, and the guys see I kind of have like a worried look on my face, right? They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" And they know about the threat that this guy made to me, and they're like, "Hey, we'll handle it." So I had like 3 or 4 carloads of guys rush over to my house, and they get out, vests, they got their guns, and they're like, "Hey," and they challenge the guy, right? And he was just the True Green guy taking care of the fertilizer in my yard.
Oh my gosh.
So I told him, I said, "Hey, maybe next time tell me when you're coming over." All right, we're going to get into some crimes against children's case studies real quick. I'm going to go through these pretty quick. Again, I know I have about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. There's some other things I want to talk about. I'm just going to talk to you about the highlights of these cases and what they were. I'm not going to talk about the investigation because I'm running out of time. Because you guys listen really slowly. I got a few Snickers. All right. So this guy, I'm a big advocate for community outreach. This guy's 11-year-old stepdaughter came up to me after a presentation that I did at a junior high school. She was in 6th grade. She says, "Hey, I need to talk to you. Something's going on at home. I don't know what to do." I said, "All right, let's go talk to your counselor." She says, "My stepdad makes me strip, and he touches me in ways that I don't think are right." So we opened a case on this guy, and he says, "Oh, he's videoing me when he's doing it." So we opened a case on this guy, and he found out that we opened the case, that she said something to her counselor. So he deletes all the stuff that he has on his computer, and I get a search warrant. I go to his house, and I get his computer. Who thinks when you delete stuff on your computer it's actually gone? It's not, I promise. So I'm also a DEXT agent. A DEXT agent in the FBI is a data extraction technician. And so we're able to do some computer digital forensics. So I extracted all the data from his computer, and I looked in his unallocated space where you put your deleted data. And I was able to find about 30 videos of this girl where he would discipline her. She's 11. Discipline her because she did something wrong, like didn't put the dishes up, didn't do her homework or whatever. And he'd make her strip, and then he would do things to her and touch her. So he got 24 years in prison. This guy, I took over his account. Oh, not his account. I took over a kid's account. He was 13 years old. And he goes home one day, and he tells his dad and his mom, he says, "Hey, I think I'm gay." And his dad said, "No son of mine's gay." And so he rebelled a little bit. And he put an ad on Craigslist. I know Craigslist is a little dated, but back then it wasn't. He puts an ad on Craigslist, and he basically says the same thing. "Hey, I think I'm gay. I need someone to help me." So he had one subject come pick him up, and he made the kid dress up like a little girl, and he raped him. So I was able to take over that kid's account and prove who that guy was, because I found all the stuff, the messages, and he got 15 years in prison. This guy kept trying to meet him, or meet who he thought was the kid. And he asked me to bring an 11-year-old, because he said the younger the better. So we arrested him on an undercover operation on a video, kind of like you'll see in a second. And he got 30 years because he also brought me 8 balls of cocaine, and he distributed child pornography to me. This guy got life in prison. He got 20 years. I did a lot of human trafficking cases. Recovered a 15-year-old girl that they were pimping out together, and they would pass back and forth. At 13 years old, her mom got put in prison for meth, and her stepdad put her out on the street and said, "Here, go with this pimp." And so that was a long case. It took a while. We had to do a lot of digital evidence on that, prove where they were, prove that they were together at different hotels, things like that. And that was a tough one because that 15-year-old girl, she was 16 when she had to testify, but she had to testify because this guy took it to trial because this was his second time he got hit with trafficking an underage girl. That's why he got life and he got 20 years. She was sexually assaulting her 18-month-old baby. I was working an undercover case. And this guy posted an ad on Craigslist. I responded to it. He was teaching me how to groom little girls. He told me he had sexually assaulted his foster sister when he was in his early 20s and she was like 10. Through those conversations, I learned about her. And he's able to get her to do things for him and video the things that she's doing to her 18-month-old baby. And she was also doing it for this guy. They both got over 20 years. She got life in prison. This guy we hit on a peer-to-peer case where you trade stuff, right? Peer-to-peer. He was sexually assaulting his 3 stepkids, and mom knew about it. And it was much more complicated than that. But the little girl there, she was 10 years old. She wouldn't talk to anybody but me. Because I think in law enforcement, sometimes we have a tendency to treat people, and like we'll go on search warrants, and we go into this like role, this mode. We're kind of robotic. And I just was treating them like kids. And I don't think that she had been treated like a kid in a long time. And just talking to her about what she likes. Does she like what does she like to do? What shows does she like? And then I asked her, I just felt like something was off. And I was like, hey, is there something maybe you would like to talk to us about? And she said, I'll tell you, but nobody else. So she goes on to tell me that this guy is sexually assaulting her and her 2 brothers and taking videos of it. And I found digital evidence that the mom tried to delete where he sent video or a picture of him sexually assaulting her 9-year-old brother. All right. Those are really serious cases, and I'm just being really raw with you. Those are some of the cases we work on crimes against children. This is an undercover operation we did over a month period. We set up an undercover sting, and we posed to 12-year-old girls and 15-year-olds that were being pimped out, and we let everybody know our age, and this is how many people we arrested over a month. All right, you guys want to see a funny video? How much time I got? 10 minutes. All right, we'll make it happen. All right. So my bread and butter was undercover operations for crimes against children. And so cut this part out. Okay. All right. I'll fast forward this real quick. Okay. So you heard the guys cussing in the background. I'm going to be honest with you, like kind of the nature of law enforcement nowadays. There's cameras everywhere, guys. Watch your, because that one agent got really, he was upset because this guy tried to hit him with a van. So they came in too quickly. They were supposed to wait for me to get him out of the van. For whatever reason, they thought he was going to get in the van, or thought I was going to get in the van. I wasn't going to. So trust your guys to do their job. Trust the undercover to do their job. And they kind of came in too quick, too hot. And he had time to throw it and drive. And as the agents got out, he started driving towards them and tried to hit him. And somebody slammed into his car with another vehicle. So that's why you hear get out of the car and all the language and stuff. Okay, I worked an active shooter investigation. This guy drove around, lasted for 56 minutes. 25 people were injured, 7 people were killed, 13 crime scenes. It was 12 agencies involved. It was a lot of work. I had to learn a lot about collecting digital evidence and videos and figuring out this guy's timeline. I don't think I slept for 5 days on this. 17-month-old little girl was shot, 15-year-old girl was shot and killed. There's a lot to do. That I could do a week on that investigation, but obviously with time, we're gonna press forward. This is me in the Philippines. Some of the kids we rescued over there. I was in the Philippines for 90 days as an acting assistant legal attaché. It was a fantastic experience. The only thing I hated about it was being away from my family. I set up a human trafficking task force. They didn't have a task force over there for human trafficking, and we got evidence that they were flying girls through Cebu, Philippines. You can look up where Cebu is, C-E-B-U, and helped set this task force up. That's what these meetings right here are about. And it's still an ongoing human trafficking task force today, and they recovered, just in the time I was there, they recovered 19 girls. And this is me posting a picture on Facebook like an idiot. My wife is like, what are you doing? I thought you were working. Because on the weekends I would do that stuff. Child Exploitation Operational Unit, I went up there, about 5 more minutes, guys, and then we'll get into questions. I'm going to hit the highlights on these two, because I know we're running out of time. I worked on technical exploitation. So, Child Exploitation Operational Unit is one of 2 operational units at headquarters. Most FBI agents don't even know this exists. You have a counterterrorism operational unit, and you have a child exploitation operational unit. And we work cases, and we work a lot of darknet cases and go after the most egregious subjects There are. And I got to go overseas a lot. June of last year, I was presenting in a hotel next to just a quarter of a mile away from the Eiffel Tower for a week. It was a lot of opportunities, a lot of international travel. It was fantastic work. And I can talk more about that darknet stuff. If you guys, I'm gonna leave my contact information for all of you if you want to call me. This is what I do now. This was like a few months ago. One of our narcotics cases. That's all fentanyl pills and fentanyl powder. This is one of the arrests we did a couple weeks ago. Arrested an MS-13 member responsible for 3 murders. These are some of the headlines. What we do. That's our motto. Let the wicked fear the righteous. It's a very large task force. I have 23 full-time task force officers, 13 agents, intelligence analysts, 2 SOSs, which they do like intel work as well. I have 2 linguists that work full-time with us because it's all Spanish. We work a lot with El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, LEGAT offices. But I want to share this with you because this is who MS-13 is. They killed this 16-year-old kid because they thought he was snitching on him, and he wasn't. He had a best friend that was 17 that was hanging around the gang. And they went by his house one day, and they saw a police car there. The mom called the cops because he was a runaway. So the next time they saw this kid, they invited him down to the basement of the Words, at the Words house. The Word is the leader of this clique. And they stabbed this kid over 100 times. They made the best friend stab him so that he would be involved in it. Otherwise, they were going to kill the best friend. Then they drove his body several miles away, dumped it on the side of the road, poured gasoline on it, and burned it. This is the kind of stuff we're seeing every day on a lot of these cases. We dug up a body that was cut into 11 pieces back in August. The call I was on just right back there, right before this happened, was the supervisor up in Boston asking when we're going to come up and look for the dead body that we know is up in a set of woods. We just don't know exactly where it's at. We have about 100 agents that we need to do a grid search to find out where the thing is. We have a victim from a week ago that was shot 7 times, and they dug up a grave in a state park for him. So that's who MS-13 is, and that's the kind of stuff we're working on, violence. All right, I'm going to go through 5 minutes, and then we're going to answer. Is that good? Okay, I want to talk about this because this is important to me, this section right here. Any questions about casework, guys, real quick? Then we get into question and answers. I know I'm going quick, and I apologize. I want to talk about some challenges that you guys are truly in this for the long haul, and you're truly going to do law enforcement work. You need to know about some of the things you may or may not see. You need to know about some of the things that aren't talked about a lot. And I'm pretty open about it, okay? Right now we're facing some challenges with recruitment and retention because of just society and anti-law enforcement stuff. And with that comes police accountability. You guys can take your own take on that. I'm not going to get into the details of that. I have some stuff on data-driven crime prevention that I want to talk about, using your intel to drive your cases, right? We have intel analysts, and we have sources. They take that data from our sources, and they tell us what cliques are doing what, and they help us drive our investigations. Or if there's hot spots in a city, if you're in law enforcement, using that data to help you do crime prevention is important. Law enforcement technology, get a basic understanding of technology and how it works. Get a basic understanding of how to do digital forensics, and you're going to be a step ahead of 90% of law enforcement officers. And it's not like it was 20 years ago when I got into law enforcement, where it was, not everybody had cell phones, and if they did have cell phones, there wasn't a lot of data on it. Everybody has a computer in their hand now. So every case is literally a cyber case. So learning those skills is going to put you ahead of some other people. We'll talk about this real quick. This is kind of what I wanted to get to. Sometimes in life we're told to have a positive attitude and be determined, and you're going to get where you want to go. That's not always true. I'm just going to be raw with you guys. Sometimes there are just obstacles. Maybe it's a bad boss. Maybe it's a bad coworker. Maybe you have shit going on at home that you just can't overcome. Maybe you just have some mental or emotional fatigue because this job gets to you because you're watching kids get raped, or you're watching dead bodies get dug up, or you've lost friends in the line of duty. Because all 3 of those are true for me. And I had to kind of take a self-reflection and look at myself and go, all right, I need to recognize when's enough, and take a step back, because you'll catch yourself being cold with the people that you love and the people that support you, and you don't know why. You'll catch yourself yelling at your 8-year-old son for spilling the milk when it wasn't that big of a deal, and then he looks at you like he's scared, and that scares you because you're like, why am I doing this? Why I'm not this guy. But it's real, guys. It happens. It will creep up on you and you don't even realize it. So just have things in your life outside of this, outside of law enforcement. Maybe it's jiu-jitsu. Maybe you like to hike. Maybe you like to run. I don't know why any of you would like to run, but I'm just playing. Have that thing in your life where you can take care of yourself. Because if not, it's going to affect other people around you. Resiliency and self-care are important. I'll end after these few slides. This is me and 3 of my best friends after we buried our best friend. He was shot and killed in the line of duty. I've lost 3 friends. I knew all 3 police officers. I was friends with all of them. I spoke at Greg's funeral in 2021. This is when we buried Brent Long. We were partners for 5 years in the PD. Rode together almost every night. When he became a K-9 officer, I was his partner, but I took all his bites. This stuff, we try to play tough. We try to act like things don't matter. Have people you can talk to about this stuff, guys. Have people you can sit down with and be real. As a young officer and a young agent, we're going to talk about the mental health about this job, but it is real. But I'm going to tell you something else after this slide. And my dad told me this just the other day, and I used it in all of my presentations this week. I've been doing presentations all week, and I was like, that is a really, really good statement. This is Dan and Laura on February 23rd. They were serving a crimes against children warrant, just like hundreds I've done. And the subject came to the door with an AR and shot 6 agents, and these 2 died. Dan was one of the smartest agents I know. He worked with the Child Exploitation Operational Unit, still has the largest darknet case in FBI history. He took down one of the child exploitation site. Laura was a badass. She was the first female special agent on SWAT in Albuquerque Division's history. She did CrossFit. She could keep up with any guy, and she was smarter than most agents. It's real, guys. This stuff is real, okay? It's not like other jobs, but I'm going to use the line that my dad told me. It's funny he's sitting here because I've been using it all week. Tough jobs are meant for tough people. So I think all of you are tough enough, and I know all of you can do anything I can do. But I just want to kind of share this piece of it because it doesn't always get talked about, and then I'll leave you with this statement. Just be unapologetically relentless about who you want to be. Maybe you have people in your life that don't believe in you. Maybe you have people in your life that don't think law enforcement is the right path because it's too hard, right? It's too tough. But if this is who you want to be okay with that and be relentless about trying to get where you want to go. All right. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to be done. I have a few more slides. It's one of my favorite quotes, Man in the Arena. You guys look it up. Here's some internship stuff. I encourage you guys all to apply. You can scan that QR code right there if you want. And then I'll share my information with you. Okay for some questions? We have time for some questions? You guys have any questions?
We have one over here.
I went through stuff very fast. Go ahead.
What are the hours like?
For the FBI?
Yeah.
Well, if you're working a white-collar squad, you're better than my squad. So the FBI works 10-hour days. Traditionally, you're supposed to work 10-hour days. We get what you call availability pay. We're on the GS scale, so 50-hour weeks is the standard. And because you get availability pay, if you go over that, you're not getting overtime. But there are days you work 8, 9, 10 hours, but there are days you work a lot longer than that, depending on the squad. Generally, my squad gets in around 9:30. We kind of come in a little later because of what we work. Gang members and drug dealers don't get up till noon. So, if we're out on surveillance, it's going to be a longer night. It's not traditional hours. It's not. But it's not like it's every day like that. I mean, I have 3 kids at home: baseball, basketball, soccer, ice skating. Make sure you guys have a good work-life balance. That's been important for me. My dad I'm calling my dad out a lot because he's sitting in the back. He constantly reminds me to make sure I'm there for my kids enough. And it may not look like I am, but I do my best. But it is important, that work-life balance, and making sure you're not giving everything to this job. There's another thing I'm going to tell you guys. Have friends outside of law enforcement. Don't just have law enforcement friends, because I've seen a lot of cops do that. Don't let this be your identity. Be more than just your job, and have friends outside of that, because in law enforcement we deal with the worst of society, right? But you kind of lose sight of most people are good. Most people are good, and you need to constantly remind yourself of that in your personal life, and having those friends and connections and relationships outside of law enforcement. Right? Anything else? You guys get this? Go ahead. This is my contact information if you guys want it.
So when you're sent to like your first field office, how is it like decided like what cases or what task force would you put on? Because at that point you have like no experience, so
Needs of the Bureau.
it's bureau.
They call it needs of the Bureau. So the question was, upon your first assignment to a field office, where are you assigned? And I kind of jokingly said needs of the Bureau. Your professor probably understands that. It's where there's a need and where there's an opening, right? I'm sure that Julia, the new agent on my squad, didn't think as a 10-year school teacher that she would be assigned to a violent gang task force. And I'm not even sure that's where she wanted to be. But that's what she got, and she's doing fantastic. She really is. So you don't really know, but you can work your way up to, like if your goal is to become a SWAT operator and be on a violent crime task force, maybe they assign you to work CI or CT work for 3 or 4 years, and you do that, and you do it well, then you're going to get to where you want to go. The problem that I see with a lot of young agents right now is they get in and they're assigned something, maybe that's not what they wanted. I didn't want to go to Midland, Texas for 10 years, right? That's not where I wanted to be. And they work harder at trying to get out of that than just embracing it, right? Embracing that challenge like it's an opportunity and working hard and proving their work ethic, and then they'll get to where they want to go. You got to work your way up to where you want to go. So it's wherever they need you. What else? Anything else?
For the internship program, how long does it take for them to like accept you or get started with that?
There is a background process. So I think the application process is in August, I think, for the following year, for the following summer. And I know they're making selections right now. So it takes a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, to get notification whether you get it or not. It's like I said, I don't know all the details, but if you go to that site off the QR code, it'll tell you all the steps. And I think it's like August, September, and then they make determinations. Usually by December, by January, you'll know whether you get it or not, get in or not. And if you don't get it, don't let that deter you. Put it in the next year and try other stuff. Like I said, there's things I didn't get. I didn't get on the detective. I put in to be a detective, and they didn't select me the first time, right? Don't let setbacks deter you. Like setbacks should make you more determined to succeed, is what it should do. We all have setbacks, every one of us, at every stage in our career, I promise. What else? Ma'am?
What's the case you're most proud of?
That's a good question. I get that one a lot. I don't know. I have a lot of cases that I worked, but I'll tell you the thing that stands out for me the most is I've received awards and recognition for some cases. I've worked a lot of good cases. I gave you guys kind of a flash of it. There's a lot of other cases I've worked. But that little girl that said she'd only talk to me, remember that? I told you guys about that little girl. She'd only tell me what happened. When she was adopted, she asked for me to come to her adoption because I rescued her. Like a year later, a year after that case, she asked for me to come to her adoption. And that's meant more to me than anything. Any award, anything I've ever done in a trial, anything, that has stood to me like that's why I do this job. What else do you guys want to hear about? Anything? Did I cover everything? Nothing? All right, I'll leave you guys alone. Thank you.
So, if you
I don't need an award.
So, on behalf of Eta Sigma In the Homeland Security program, we present you with this award for coming and speaking to us
thank
today
you.
and giving us your side of the story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you guys for having me. I really do appreciate it. And I'm not just saying like that's my phone number, my email. You guys need anything? I'm here. I do want to leave you one other thing. I've been in civilian law enforcement career for 20 years, plus my military career. Every stage of my career, I've needed a mentor. I've needed somebody that I could look up to and reach out to and get advice. I do it today. I have multiple people that I reach out to. Do that, and don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask somebody to mentor you, to help you guide through your career and make the right decisions. We all need help. And if you don't think you need help, you're wrong. And if there's somebody that says they don't want to be your mentor, then they shouldn't be your mentor anyways. Okay? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.